What up, what up? This is Matt James, all the way from Canada. How's she going, eh? And you're listening to Furious on Deeper Than Music.
Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music.
What up, what up? This is Mark, Furious, Deeper Than Music Radio. Behind every great song, there's an even greater story. I'd like to say hello to everybody on internet land, webcast land, here on this wet, rainy day here in the DFW area. It seems like we're getting 40 days and 40 nights of rain. So I thank you guys out for listening to us. And today we have a very special treat. Just found out this group is going to be Grammy considered. They've been around for a while, real big overseas. Ladies and gentlemen, we got the leader of the group, Curds, here on Deeper Than Music Radio. How you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Doing pretty good. I'd like to say, first of all, congratulations on your Grammy consideration. I know that's one of the many processes to get to the Grammy nominations. So that in itself is a big accomplishment.
Yeah.
So I guess the first question.
It's just.
Oh, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
So just hoping to get on the ballot. That's.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But I think to be considered is a big deal as well. So I guess my first question for the listeners is, how would you describe the sound of Curds, and what are you guys bringing to the music scene?
I like to call it neoclassic. Because a lot of it still has a classic rock tone and feel to it. You know, it's brought up to date, brought current, but then again, like I say, a neoclassic. It still has that classic bite to it, and I still think there's a market for that. It might even be coming back on the classic side. A lot of young people, even my own daughters, listen to classic rock. So. I think that's what we bring. We bring a little bit of a classic taste back, updated classic taste, and people seem to like it.
Oh, that's good to hear. Actually, when you say classic rock, I want to ask, like, what era? Because I guess to me, what I find fascinating now is Nirvana is now considered classic rock, and when they came out, I was in a middle school. So for me, it's like, wow, Nirvana is now classic rock. So what is, I guess now we would ask, like, what era?
Good question. I mean, a lot of it is late 80s, early 90s, without all the reverb, of course. But,
okay.
Yeah. I'm an old sod, so.
No, that's actually a good era of music. And who would you say would be your influences as far as music and being creative?
Influentially. Well, as a kid, I grew up listening to what my mom and dad had. It was Tony Bennett, Robert Goulet, Frank Sinatra, that kind of stuff, Nat King Cole. I grew up listening to that stuff, and so I always had an influence for music. My dad was a big band trumpet player.
Oh, okay.
So I was always music was always integrated into my life. And that little jingle you hear is my German Shepherd scratching herself.
Oh, okay.
She won't leave the studio. But anyways, as I got older, it was always the Beatles, the Stones, that kind of stuff. And then when I really started to write, I could always write, but when I really was able to start putting it into music, into melodies. I think that was probably in the, sometime early 90s, late 80s, when I was able to actually start putting it to music. I don't know who my influence was then. When I got into the late 90s, or mid 90s, the Gin Blossoms, the Rembrandts, that kind of stuff. And then, actually, those two groups they're all friends of mine now. So.
Oh wow! Did you ever imagine that your influences would eventually be friends of yours, or?
No, I didn't. It's funny. Back in early 2000s, right, 2003, 2004, I was a frontman in a Jim Blossom's tribute band. Probably the only time anybody ever had one. And that's how I actually met Robin Wilson's brother, and I ended up meeting the rest of the band, and they all became friends of mine. In fact, their drummer at that time, Scott Kuzmierek, ended up coming out to be our drummer for a year or so. So, and then that's how I met Danny Wilde from the Rembrandts, and I never thought they'd be friends of mine.
Wow. So, roughly, when did you start doing music? When did you know this is what I want to do? I want to be a musician.
Well, I always wanted to do it all my life. I think when I got out of high school, I'm going to date myself, but I got out of high school in 1977. I actually got into my first garage band, and from that point, once you have that taste, you don't stop.
Oh yeah, once you get the bug, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And so who are the band members of Curd? I know that I want to say that you're the main driving force. I see you a songwriter, arranger. So are you the mastermind behind the Curds?
Not really. Actually, we're kind of in between members. Andy Zuckerman, he's the mastermind. I'll write something and I'll put a demo together and I'll send it to Andy, and we'll send sessions back and forth for a month and a half until it's produced the way we think it should be. But Andy he's the brains behind. I just send him the stuff. Here it is, Andy. Do something with it, and we always end up 2 months later with a hell of a song. And now, we're doing a revamp. We're probably adding new members here shortly. I'm doing some work with Kenny Gahn. He's in LA. We're doing stuff back and forth. He'll probably end up joining us. A guy out here, Jay Goff, will probably end up joining us. We're, like I said, it's mainly Andy and I right now, and we're just kind of retooling.
Okay.
For next year.
Okay, and I have queued up the song "Breakaway." Could you give us a little background and description of the song before we play it?
Sure. "Breakaway" was something I wrote back in 2011. I wrote it. Well, we released a song. I rewrote, and we released a song called "Home Is Manila," and it went really well in the Philippines. I think it has like 10,000 streams to date from, I think it was 2010 to now.
Wow.
And I needed to do a follow-up, and I met a lot of friends that became fans there because Arnel Pineda from Journey is a friend of mine, and a lot of his fans jumped onto mine and started liking my music, and I met one of them. She became a really good friend, and now she's kind of like a daughter, a little sister. So she said, "Kuya," which is kind of like Big Brother, write me a song. So I wrote a song, "Breakaway." So I kind of wrote that for her, and it came out really good. I didn't expect it to come out like it did, and it's supposed to be featured in a video blog here in the next month or so, back to the Philippines. So.
Oh, okay. All right, so there you go. We have a song here from Curd, "Breakaway," here on Deeper Than Music Radio.
Are bright in the sky at night. Wonder
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Curd, Breakaway here on Deeper Than Music Radio. This definitely has a classic sound. I guess to me the lyrics remind me of "Don't Stop Believing," being in a town and wanting to break away from what people expect you to do.
Yeah.
So, no, very. I like the song. Yeah, it definitely has elements of classic rock. So what inspires you to? What is your inspiration when you're creating? What inspires you to create?
You know, I get asked that all the time, and you know, you could give a thousand different answers. It just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. I could be driving down the street, and all of a sudden the hook will come into my head, and I'll grab my phone and turn on the voice recorder and sing that hook. And then when I get home, I'll try to write around the hook, or I'll have some lyrics in my head while I'm at work or walking around the house, and I'll run into the studio real fast and cut a couple bars just so I have it down, and then I'll write around it. It could be past relationships. It could be something that's going on in life. It could be absolutely nothing to do with my life. It's just what comes into the head. You know? So,
for example, with this song, because it's very detailed, and I like how it tells a story. Like, I feel like you said, in the era that you were influenced by in classic rock, telling stories was something big, and it's something that you really don't hear too much of in music. What was the inspiration behind Breakaway?
Okay, that inspiration happened to be our little friend, my wife and I, our little friend in the Philippines. I kind of call her my little sister, Alan. She's, you know, grew up in a small town in the Philippines, and you know, the deal is everybody wants to break away. I kind of like the Philippines. I don't know that I'd want to leave there, but that was the whole idea. You know, got to get out and make something of myself. Get away from there. I'm sure it resonates with a lot of people.
Oh yeah, because I know, I mean, there's plenty of songs. I'm trying to think just off the top, because the song, it was like, it reminded me of "Don't Stop Believing," and then it also heard a little bit of, it kind of reminded me of like Bruce Springsteen's songs in the '80s, and a little bit,
Jackie and Diane type of thing,
and Billy Joel. So can you give us a rundown of Curds' work, your discography? I see that there's 3 albums so far.
Yeah, I have two full albums out there. They're distributed through my distributor, who puts them, I think, like 300 different sites out there to stream from and buy from. And then the last one I did, an EP that I released through my label, Amuse. Amuse is the only completely all internet record label in the world. I'm sure there'll be more after this, but I do my new stuff through them. And I have stuff all over the place. But yeah, the 2 albums and then the EP, and then the end of this year, pushing into next year now, there'll be a new album out.
Okay, and I see also on the first album that you had some collaborations with Danny Wilde of the Rembrandts, Jessie, Valenzuela, and Scotty Johnson.
Yeah, actually on the first album, the Nobody Else CD, actually they played on Scotty Johnson and Jessie Valenzuela played on it, along with Scott Kuzmarek, who was the drummer for the Gin Blossoms at that time. And then the second one, which was No Goodbyes, I actually co-wrote. Danny co-wrote a song with Andy and I. Danny Wilde co-wrote a song with Andy and I. It's called A Day in the Sun. It's on that CD.
Okay, and then also I see that, I mean, your work has been getting a lot of attentions, a lot of charts, and also was it number 32 on the STS Hot AC Top 40? So that's got to be something good that I mean, now you're ground down to Grammy considered. What has been the most challenging part of your career? What have you found to be the most challenging in your music career?
Getting heard. Getting heard. I mean, I'm old school. I've been around a long time. I'm really well seasoned, and there's a lot of the younger bands and younger artists are doing the DIY scene, do it yourself scene, and that's just not something I'm good at. I need to have somebody doing stuff for me. I'd really rather just sit, write, record, and release, and have somebody do everything else for me. I did have that out in LA. I had a management contract, but he became the chairman for Apple D Apps International Foundation and didn't have time, so we didn't renew. And we got out here, and it was pretty much by myself because I don't know the Houston music scene that well. Even after 6 years, I don't know the Houston music scene that well. So I'm pretty much on my own out here, and I write, send my stuff out to Andy in LA, and I have a couple other projects I'm working with Anders Jansen in Germany on some very European sounding stuff, producing and writing and playing with him. And then I've got the project on the song that we put up for consideration, or the Grammy consideration. You Don't Want Me is actually a collaboration between Andy, myself, and Dave Buckner. Most of anybody who was a big rock fan out there will know who Dave Buckner is. And that song, that's a totally different project. It's a writing project that we're working on, and mainly trying to get sync deals,
Oh, for sync licensing and placements.
Licensing deals, yeah, that kind of stuff. So you got to have your eggs in different baskets.
Oh yeah, you definitely need to. And I know Dave Buckner is Papa Roach, correct?
Yeah, he was in Papa Roach, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and you're definitely correct as far as with the internet, or now with the digital age and everybody do it yourself and social media. I mean, you have so many outlets and so many avenues and I can understand where you're coming from. It's so like I was actually doing some social media marketing, and they're like, okay, you do this tweet around this time at these time of dates, and then on Facebook you do this and do that. So I completely understand from where we went to, like in 2000 to now. It's a totally different landscape. And then on top of that, like you mentioned, 10,000 streams, and I tell people like 10,000 streams doesn't necessarily mean a whole bunch of money.
Not at 8/100ths of a cent.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. The industry's not like it was.
No, it
actually really. I don't even know why I'm doing an album because it's pretty much with the way iTunes and the rest of the actual purchase sites are. It's pretty much a singles-driven market,
Yeah.
Before, when you had to download a whole CD to get one song, now you can just split it up and buy a song. So it's pretty much a singles-driven market. And I may just release a bunch of singles.
And I've known a bunch of artists that's done that. And then I even in my mind, like I wonder in this day age of music, can a concept album like, Pink's, Floyd Pink's The Wall, can a concept album thrive in this music era?
I think it could, but it has to be. It would have to be really intelligently done. But
yeah,
I think a concept album would that's a different ball game. I don't think anybody who likes the artist that's putting a concept album out is not going to go up and just buy singles from it. I think they're going to want the whole
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next song we have queued up is called "Can't Say No." Can you give us a rundown on this song?
Yeah, "Can't Say No" is actually the first song I wrote when I got out here 6 years ago, but I just recorded it last year, and I still don't even know what I'm going to do with it. I'll probably release it. I'd like to redo it, but it's the first song I did out here, and it's actually the first song I mixed myself. And I dare say that doesn't sound too bad. It came out all right, but yeah,
okay.
It's just a song I wrote. It's one of those things.
All right, here we go on Deeper Than Music Radio. Curd, "Can't Say No."
Hi, this is Jason Ryland. You're listening to Deeper Than the Music Radio.
There's another great song here from Curd. So how long did it take you to mix and master? It's a good mix.
Oh, thanks. That took me a month. It took me a month. You know, it's just I learned pretty much everything on the fly. You know, when I lived in California, Andy and I, when we'd record, all four of us, all the guys would be able to record, and Andy would do everything, and I'd sit behind his shoulder and watch him. And when we got out here, and I thought to myself, what am I going to do? And so my wife let me spend a lot of money, and I kind of learned on the fly, YouTube, you know, reading, and then I'll get on a session with Andy Zuckerman. I'll get on a session with him on a FaceTime and learn this, learn that, learn this, learn that, and it just kind of all comes together at some point.
So how did you and Andy, how did you guys get to meet? How did that friendship and bond in music, how did that come to light?
We've been actually, Andy and I have been writing together since 2007, and we met through a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, August Zadra. He plays lead guitar for Dennis DeYoung from Styx. We met through August. August thought we'd be a good match, so we met, and we've been writing ever since. So Andy's one of the best friends you could have, and he seems to know exactly where I'm going with something, and I know where he's going to go, especially on stage. He knows exactly. Even if we don't speak about it, he knows exactly what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say, where I'm going to go. And the same thing goes for me with him. And the rest of the guys, too, Gary and Chris, who, by the way, that Breakaway was actually the last full band recording that we did with the old band with Gary and Chris on it. But, yeah, we've known each other a long time. It just kind of, it's like, it's just second nature now. So
yeah, that's a good mix to have. I can't think the guy's name that worked with Sting for so long, and I kind of laugh at their relationship because he's a good guitar player and Sting's a songwriter, and they kind of like, the guy would say, I forget his name, I think it's Dominic Miller. He would say he would come up with a good song or good tune, and then Sting would walk away and come back. And he's like, where do you find these lyrics under a rock? And your guys' musical bond speaks to that. You know, good people that can relate on a music level and just come out with just great music.
Yeah.
And
we've been doing it for 11 years now.
And then I like how, you know, usually with the band, and I was the type of guy that always would watch behind the music. I always like watching documentaries. There's always like those two people that are like the nucleus. Like I really didn't realize, I watched something on the Beatles and I really didn't realize how much input in songwriting Paul McCartney did in the early days. And I've always, you know, there's always a band and there's always, you know, two people that are the driving force. So, and we talked about this earlier. How do you feel? And we talked about how the music industry has changed. How do you feel about the change, and how do you feel about technology and social media compared to when you first started to now, and how it's definitely changed the music industry?
Oh, it's changed the music industry for sure. It's a lot easier. It's easier to record and do a mix. You can do it right in your bedroom, you know. And you can put out the same quality the big studios do. It's that's changed. That's a positive. The other positive, it's easier for you to get your music out for other people to hear. To get signed, no, it's not easy anymore because they just don't do it as much.
And there's one thing that I heard, and this was pretty interesting. I was reading a book on social media marketing, and the guy, he's in the industry, and he's like, the people aren't buying your talent now; they're buying your fans. So now it's all about your social. Okay, what's your Facebook following like? What's your Instagram look like? You know,
and that's a fact. I mean, that's what they want. You get into a contest. In fact, Andy and we entered a song contest just last month, and you would think that when they're judging a song or a track, that they're judging it on the merit of the track itself, but no, they want to see how many of your friends you can have call in or hit that link and click in that they like it. How many times can you get people to do that? To me, that's not judging a song.
No, that's not judging a song. That's judging the following.
Yeah, and that's exactly like you said. They're buying your fans. They're really not buying your music. And there's a lot of music out there that I wouldn't buy. You know? But again, if they have a following, they're going to get somewhere.
Yeah. So now I have queued up Say It Ain't So. Can you give us a rundown on this song?
Yeah, Say It Ain't So is a fun song. I don't know how. One night I just happened to be sitting in my recliner with no TV on or nothing like that, and I just started thinking about Mother Goose characters.
Okay.
Mother Goose characters, and I wanted to write them kind of into a song without getting in trouble, and so I had thought about this relationship I was in way before I met my wife. And I kind of had some lyrics in mind, and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to work this in. So I worked in, and you can hear him in the song, in Little Red Riding Hood, Little Miss Muffet, The Old Lady in the Shoe. There's a reference to Humpty Dumpty in there. The Humpty Dumpty one is kind of hard to catch. You got to really be listening, but it was a fun song to do, we wanted to give it its due. So I think Andy and I we probably spent about 6 months getting that song the way we wanted it to. But it's a fun song. I actually like the song a lot.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm about to have to play it. Yeah, you definitely got me intrigued now. So here we go. Say It Ain't So here on Deeper Than Music Radio.
In the woods, on her way to her granny's to deliver the goods. But she ran into Miss Muffet, who was stealing a car, and they drove off together, but they didn't get far. Oh no! What goes up, baby, must come down. When your turn comes, honey, you're walking around like the girls in the story. You just won't win, but I could have saved your hand to let me in. Nobody feels your pain. Nobody knows your shame. Say it ain't so. There was an old lady and she lived in a shoe. We all know the story. It reminds me of you in your mansion that you built out of glass. If the secret gets out, it's gonna shatter real fast. I won't be there to help you clean it all up. You chased me away when I was down on my luck. It took me some time, but now I'm making my way. So don't come knock on my door, 'cause I've got nothing to say. Don't
gentlemen, Curds, Say It Ain't So, here on Deeper Than Music Radio. And I think because you mentioned like a lot of nursery rhymes, that song reminded me of Tom Petty. It had the Tom Petty flavor to it.
Don't come around here, yeah. With
you know exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know exactly the video too.
That's what I do.
So we have 4 minutes left, and I'm gonna close out with the song "You Don't Want Me." My last questions to you is: what does music mean to you?
Everything. I mean, the world revolves around it. It's a universal language. Everybody can. You can use music. If you could use music to heal the world, why not? Everybody likes music. It doesn't matter. There's some kind of music everybody likes. And quickly, before we go, on the last song you're playing, that actually is are lyrics that my great grandmother wrote during the Civil War.
Wow.
That Dave Buckner and Andy and I, we did it as a trio of writers called the Ghosts of Winter. And that is using lyrics that my great-grandmother wrote back in the Civil War.
Wow. And where can people go to, that they heard the interview, they're like interested, shameless promotion time. Where can we hear more about Curd, shows, dates, upcoming releases?
Spotify. Everything's on Spotify. Pandora. I do have a website that's being redone, but it's up there. No show dates till after the first of the year.
Okay.
When I release the next album, but all kinds of information up there. And yes, Spotify is the main go-to.
Okay. And also, we're going to play your music. I have a segment called Music Monday, so we'll definitely spin the tunes that you provided us on Music Mondays. And we also do have a playlist called Deeper Than Music that I'll add to the Deeper Than Music playlist as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Not a problem. And thank you for sharing your music and the talent behind the music. You already gave us the story behind You Don't Want Me. So now we're closing out here with Bill Curd of Curd with You Don't Want Me here on Deeper Than Music Radio.
Thanks a lot.
There you go, we're walking along. Ever since the day you did me wrong,